Hello everybody and welcome to the Boxing Locker. I am Matt Goddard, former professional boxer, now boxing coach, and today I'm going to take you through a few different variations of jab and their strengths, weaknesses and functions. Okay, so the primary jab that you're normally taught comes from this position, slightly ahead of the face, wrist rotates over, little turn of the shoulder. Sometimes we tuck that hand in, turn the face away. Depends on your coaching, who's coached you, but generally it's nice and straight, nice and narrow, starts at chin height, extends out, retracts back. Okay, so that's the basic kind of jab, right? That's the kind of jab you will be taught the first time you go into a gym primarily by most trainers. It's not always the same, but the large majority will coach you in that method. How we can change that, okay? So the first one I'm going to take through is the drop jab. Now, the drop jab comes from a high guard, okay? So when I'm in my high guard position here, I've got them hands tucked slightly to the front of the head, in line with the temples, ball round, that's my high guard position. Now where the drop jab is effective is that when you're in that high guard position, you're drawing opponents in. As they come in, the punch is thrown from here with a nice snap of the shoulders. So it doesn't really matter what punches are coming at my head, because when I throw from there, there's no gap at no point, okay? There's no opening. So I'm in my boxing stance, I'm moving around, drop in, drop in, drop in, drop in. You can throw it in whatever direction at whatever time. Even if I've got my back to the ropes and I'm backed up, lovely little counter, very difficult to defend as an opponent when you see that punch coming straight down the middle. From point A to point B is a tiny movement, very small, and you can get some real power if you drive through the shoulder as you snap from that position, okay? So what are the strengths of the drop jab? As I said, unpredictability, you can throw it from anywhere, and you're not really sacrificing a great deal of defense from there. The only sacrifice you are making is its primary weakness, and that is that it leaves your body very exposed, because naturally your hands have to be high up. So if anybody attacks the body, it's going to bring that guard down. It becomes difficult to throw at that point. Okay, so another weakness, of course, is that the range is an issue, right? Because my opponent has to be within range for me to throw this, or I have to step in with it. Okay, if I'm stepping in with that high guard and I come in, I'm pretty blinded. I can't see what's coming at me. Hooks, uppercuts, slips and counters, body attacks. You're pretty blind if you're just driving that shot in. So visibility is reduced, okay? So that is the drop jab. The next jab is the half guard kind of flick up jab, right? So I'm in this position, I'm in my half guard stance, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn that wrist over, flick the jab out as quick as I can. Bap, straight out, bap, straight out. The great thing about this jab is it's ultra relaxed. So I can just be moving around, bap, bap, generates a lot of speed. I can change position. There's no real tension in the jab. I'm not putting loads of stress on the shoulder stays loose. My rear hand tucks in and then bop, bop, from low, bop. Another real advantage is that it's coming from an unconventional position, so it's out of eye line. Most people are going to be watching one area. If you have your hands in two different places, it becomes difficult for them to track both hands. So, you know, they might start watching that jab hand after you've landed a couple, then bop, straight down the middle. You're picking up that right hand comfortably from there, okay? Weaknesses, obviously, it requires me to have a low hand. A flick jab from up here is not the same thing. It's much lighter, you can't generate as much force. That's basically just a regular jab. If I come from down here, I'm flicking through the wrist. My hand is pretty loose in the glove. Just drive it over, snap it out, bap, 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 bap. Loads of speed, loads of relaxation. And you can throw hundreds of those before they gas you out. Another great advantage, it's not a tiring punch to throw, and you can do it moving in any direction. As I'll say, disadvantage, it relies on me having good reflexes to defend shots and uses my lead shoulder to defend, okay? So if you get timed on that flick jab, somebody comes through, you've got to be sharp with your defense and alert at all times. The other thing, of course, is that if I get rushed by a pressure fighter, I need to be capable of defending in this position, or I'm going to have to tuck them hands up and defend and sacrifice that jab in the way that I was using it. A great exponent of that jab was Sugar Shane Mosley. A lovely flick jab that man had. One of the best flick jabs you'll ever see. I should reference the high guard. Watch Winky Wright throwing that drop jab. Beautiful punch, unbelievable technique, and landed a lot. So there's two jabs. I think I'm only going to choose two more to go through. Okay, so the long jab. Now, this is the long jab. So I'm out here, that lead hand's moving around. bap, bap. Short, snappy rotation of the wrist. See how close my hand is to you comparatively? Bap, bap. Now, what's good about this jab? Why is this jab valuable? Now, the long guard maintains distance. It's difficult to close down. Okay, this hand acts as a barrier between me and the opponent. Without inhibiting my vision, I can put it all up in their face. Another thing is that it's dead straight and it hasn't got as far to cover. So, boom, straight through the gap. You can pierce that guard if they got their hands up. Whatever defense, you can occupy their hands quite comfortably. Another nice thing about this is that it doesn't have to be a stiff jab. You can touch them with it, pop, drive on in. Really easy, completely change the intensity, frequency, and power. The weakness of this jab is that my arm is out here, so it doesn't offer me a huge variety of power, momentum, without having to draw it back to throw it. Okay, so if I just do this, there's a big opening, so I'm going to end up having to pull my hand back to throw them hooks as lead hands, unless I use a kind of Eastern European, Russian style here, Soviet style, chopping it over, Kazakh style, whatever you want to call it, and keep that hook long and turn that wrist over, which in my opinion is quite a difficult shot to land and get technically right. Okay, so weaknesses, difficult to throw other punches. It's nice to set up other shots off the combination, but not if you want to vary that lead hand. It becomes a bit of a challenge. Because it's long, if they occupy your hand and pull your guard down, there's an issue of them coming over the top and you're unprotected. As always though, everything is dictated by situation, position and intent. If you're good enough with defense, you'll find a way to take that away from them and utilize your jab to your best benefit. Now, the full up jab is the last, that nice long jab there. There's not a great deal of professional exponents of it, not in the modern era, but if you watch 100 years ago, any of the big names from back then, even somebody like Sugar Ray Robinson uses it at times. They keep their guard nice and long, their hands are away from them, everything's out there. You know, even with the hands down, everything's long. They're back here using that long lead hand, occupying the space between them. I'll tell you who uses this nicely, actually, I should say. Alexander Usyk on that southpaw, dropping that guard over the top, occupying the space, keeping it short, keeping it sharp. Very effectively used against Anthony Joshua in their last fight, especially to manage the distance between the two of them. The last one to go for is a complete up jab. Okay, now the great thing about this is that hand, look how far back I had to go to, you saw it. It's completely out of your line of sight. Bap, straight up, bap, straight up, bap, straight up. Now you have an option here. You can turn the wrist over, which takes a little bit longer. So my palm faces in towards me and I rotate the wrist over as I punch. Drive through that left shoulder, or you can just throw it straight up. Bap, bap, bap. That way, you don't have to slow it down, you can just flick it out. It's not quite as piercing, it's not quite as powerful. The advantage is this jab, it's well out of the line of sight, very difficult to defend against. It's almost impossible to walk through because you can't move your head out the way of it. Because it comes from below your head, even if you try to move, it will catch your body. It's not coming in a straight line. So when you move your head to that way, the punch is there, you can't get out of the way of it. It's very difficult to evade with head movement. Subsequently, it requires a lot more footwork to defend, and that means you maintain range better and you can, in fact, use it to really drive aggressive opponents backwards. Weaknesses, it's down there. That's a weakness. You're reliant on your right hand, your head movement and your footwork to defend. Another great strength is that you can throw out the shots from down there quite easy, nice and loose with the arms, let it flap around and move without really sacrificing position. But again, the strengths are the weaknesses and vice versa. The fact that I'm down there means that even if I can do that, if they happen to throw a straight right hand as I'm trying to throw a hook, whoop, going to chop down the middle. So everything, as always, situation, position and intent. And I should always say competency. If you're good at something, use it. If you're not, don't. And work on the things you're not very good on. The more competent you get in every aspect of your boxing, the better you'll be when it comes to the actual combat scenario. So there we go. There we go, guys. There is a couple of variations there. We had the high guard drop jab. We had that lovely half guard flick jab, Shane Mosley. Don't know what just happened. I think my battery died. We had that lovely flick jab from Shane Mosley. We had that long jab used by a lot of olden day fighters to touch and pierce, used by Alexander Usyk in his southpaw stance. And then we have the up jab, which you'll see a lot of guys using a lot of the time. It's been used by a plethora of great champions. Caleb Plant throws a nice up jab. I'm trying to think of people who are active now that you'll be able to see utilize that. Muhammad Ali had a nice up jab, nice flick jab, all them kind of things combined. The other thing to remember, guys, actually is an important point there, is that you can transition between them all quite comfortably. So if I'm up here, I drive that drop jab in, and then I create some distance. I go to the long jab, keeping it nice and piercing. They start trying to come in, I drop down into the half guard, snap it in with that flick jab, couple of quick ones with the lateral movement, drop my hand as they're walking in, drive that big up jab in there. You're having a great effect. So there we have it, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Any questions you have, let me know. Anything else you want to know, any other videos you want to see, as always, drop them in the comments. It's been great to have some interactions with some of the people watching the videos. So thank you to those of you that have commented. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the rest of my content. Have a wicked day, guys. Take care, everybody.